Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news. This is the business of sports.
The business of sports can be intimidating or hard for a startup to break into.
We really appreciate when our owners are actually there, with us through the journey.
Teams, ours especially, have been very intentional to diversify at all levels of the company.
I think we're in the golden years for the NFL and college football.
Our demographic reach has continued to expand.
This is going to be really unlocking the streaming platform for sports fans.
Sports valuations are rising. We'll see when they peak.
You don't have to be the best in your sport to make a whole ton of money.
Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore all of the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Damian Sassower. Michael Barr is off this week, and joining me in his stead is Bloomberg Business of Sports reporter, none other than Vanessa Perdomo. Hi, Vanessa.
Hey, Damian. Great to be in the studio.
Well, coming up, we talk a sport in your wheelhouse. We are talking soccer. Major League Soccer, in fact. It's kicking off its 30th season this weekend by debuting their 30th franchise, San Diego FC. And later this hour, we speak with Tom Penn, CEO of San Diego, on their process of putting together a major sports soccer franchise.
We come into a new stadium in the market with excellent premium offerings. We added more premium on the pitch. We innovated and we put what we're calling pitch boxes, these little 8-seat race cars right down on the field where your feet are on the grass. That's how you generate the local revenue that makes you sustainable.
We also have some of my favorite conversations I had with sports legends down in New Orleans when we were there for the Super Bowl, including a tennis great and one well-known saint.
All that and more is on the way on the Bloomberg Business of Sports. But first, the Los Angeles Olympics are right around the corner. No, I'm just kidding. They're a few years away, but it's never too early to think about the business side of the Olympics and Paralympic Games and its vision.
Here to take us through that is Sebastian Coe. He's the president of World Athletics. He's also a 2-time gold medalist, winning distance runner, former chairman of the London 2012 Games, and a former member of the UK Parliament. So actually, it's Lord Sebastian Coe. Joining us as well as Bloomberg News reporter Hugo Miller. Sebastian, welcome to the Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast.
Thank you very much. Great to be on.
Well, let's crack into it. I mean, we're looking ahead to Los Angeles in 2028, right? I mean, it's a city you're very familiar with. And if we look out just a month from now, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a little bit of a vote for the next president of the IOC. And that individual is going to handle the LA Olympics. And from what I hear, Lord Coe, you are one of the front runners. Tell us a little bit about the upcoming Olympics, the upcoming vote, and, where you stand with all that.
This is obviously a big moment. And actually, when you look at the nature of an election, it does provide the organization, the sector you're in, whether it's sport, obviously politics, and we've had a mega year of elections. It does give the organization an opportunity, and I'm going to mix my sporting metaphors here, to put their foot on the ball and actually just think things through and have the global debate. And I think that this has been an important process because the Olympic movement is a phenomenal movement. It has achieved extraordinary things, both on the field of play and off the field of play. It's been at the epicenter, it's been at the crossroads of all the big moral and political decisions of the last century. And it has to remain there, but it also has to modernize. It has to recognize that the world, well, we say the world is changing. It, in many respects, has changed. And it's vital that the movement keeps up its relentless recognition that the holy grail is to maintain the excitement, the salience, the relevance of what we're doing, particularly to young people. So, yes, it's a huge moment. And Los Angeles 2028 is an extraordinary glide path for the movement because the American market is a hugely important market. Many of our top sponsors come from there. Many of our broadcast rights that are really up for a discussion and debate at the moment reside there. And those changes, both in terms of the way we address commercial partnerships, we've got to change them from being transactional sponsorships to collaborative partnerships. And we've got to look at broadcast in not a new way, but in the way that the world recognizes that broadcast has fundamentally altered. And an audience-first approach here is going to be vital. So we've got to listen to what the audience is telling us, what they want, when they want it, and critically, where they want it. And that's why an audience-first approach, turbocharged by AI, will really unlock new and fresh markets, and particularly help in the leveling up process that I'm very keen to establish between the large, well-heeled, well-structured National Olympic Committees and the smaller National Olympic Committees that are also trying to keep up and run abreast of these developments.
You know, Seb, you talked a lot there, and I think it's really interesting. I think one of the things, obviously, me and Hugo were together last year in Paris for the games, and it was really, it felt like it was back in that heyday, like you were talking about, a lot of great things happening. Everyone was locked in. When you look at that, obviously, then also you headed the 2012 Olympics in London. So when you're looking at everything you've been a part of over the last, few decades or so, how does that influence you going into this election, what you want to work on specifically, and what you think you can laser focus in on to, help the games even further?
Well, one slightly pedantry point, if I may. I was president of the organising committee in London for the Olympics and critically the Paralympic Games. And that was a very, very serious moment for me, because the legacy of the Paralympic Games, particularly in my own country, a reimagining of disability in the workplace, in families, in educational establishments, is something that I look back with great pride. But more broadly, what do I recognize? Well, in a way, I guess the task that lies ahead of me in a few weeks' time, and my tilt to become a leadership figure in the Olympic movement, is something that I've devoted in large part most of my life to, ever since I got my first pair of running shoes and joined an athletics club at the age of 11, which then took me from my career into a political career, both domestically and internationally. I've chaired a National Olympic Committee. I've bid for a Games successfully and been part of that leadership team that also successfully delivered the Games. And of course, the experience of being the president of a central plank of the Olympic movement, track and field, as you would describe it, athletics, for most of us, has, I guess, been the type of CV and the type of experiences that I probably wouldn't have recognized in a way that were coming together, but they came together in a way that I think leaves me very comfortable that I can do this role. What did I learn from London? I learned the importance of building teams, the importance of maintaining political impartiality, particularly in those delivery phases. Critically, making sure that your organization, in our case, the London Organising Committee, looked like the world that we lived in and live in. And that's critical, because young people don't look at your organization as being a political party or a non-governmental organization or the International Olympic Committee or World Athletics. They look at you and ask, and sometimes it's probably a subconscious question, but they're asking themselves a fundamental question. Do you look like the world we live in? Do you believe in the things that we believe in? And that is critical for the movement to re-engage with young people, the next generation. In London, our mantra was to inspire a generation, and to inspire a generation through sport, but not necessarily and only in sport. So if you have an organizing committee that is responsible for delivering a big cultural piece of the Olympic movement, which is important, then you really also want a legacy afterwards of not just people joining athletics clubs or swim clubs, but taking up the violin, wanting to be in the artistic and cultural landscape. And I think we achieved that. And critical to all that is don't allow other people to define your legacy for you. You really have to be in control of that.
Sure.
And for me, very, very critically, what is it that I want the movement to reset around? It's the extraordinary nature of sport, the catalytic impact that has, the transformational impact that has on young lives.
Can I ask you a quick question about you as a candidate? I mean, what you've just described explains why you're such a strong candidate. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, some people have said you're a bit of an insider in the world of global sport and an outsider to the IOC. And obviously, your decision last year to announce the award of cash prizes to track and field gold medalists in Paris ruffled some IOC feathers. I struggle to understand why that is, given the amount of money sloshing around the Olympic sponsorship deals, broadcasting rights, and the fact that so many athletes already, when you're talking about professional athletes like Novak Djokovic to world famous gymnasts like Simone Biles, they're already making tens of millions from endorsements or prize money. Why do you feel the IOC is so uncomfortable with this proposition you've brought? And has that given you any pause, or do you really much stand by that decision?
Look, I'm not sure that the IOC per se, or the body politic is that diametrically opposed to prize money. And look, I published a speech that I gave in 1981. I was one of the first athletes to address the International Olympic Committee at a Congress. It's extraordinary that even in 1981, that no athlete had actually been invited to contribute to the movement. And I spent 4 minutes talking about the welfare of the athlete. And the welfare of the athlete for me, and I don't dissent from a word that I used in 1981, and I still think it's pertinent. The welfare of the athlete for me is not just their physical and mental welfare, critical as that is. I think it is also the ability to provide, where possible, and in a way that doesn't damage the values of the movement, which we all hold dear, but where possible, gives some financial comfort. And I say that because the world has changed. If you are a young competitor that graduates maybe in a scientific, technical skill, then to then spend 12 years dedicating your life to the furtherance of Olympic sport, and then to have to come back into the marketplace, often 10 years off the pace, means that a return to higher or further education may well be necessary. That financial welfare may be critical in doing that. That financial welfare may also allow an athlete to remain in the sport for another Olympic cycle. So I'm not, the prize money, in fact, understandably was the headline, but it's only a very small part of what I mean when I say we don't just want to listen to the athletes.
Yeah.
We need to share with them, and we need to make them our commercial partners. And how do I mean that? We hold a lot of data. Giving athletes data, as we have actually done in World Athletics, allows them to raise their profile, maybe to be very much more specific about how they pitch themselves to partners and sponsors, giving them more flexibility around their content. I'll give you a really good example.
So you want the IOC to monetize?
I want
the hammer throwers, not just the sprinters.
I want the athletes in every Olympic sport to have more flexibility to be able to access their own data, their own content. Let me give you a good concrete example of that. Next year in 2026, we have something called the World Athletics Ultimate Championships. Unashamed, it's a three-night championship aimed specifically at TV. 3 nights, 3 hours, 16 of the top track athletes, 8 of the top field event athletes. That's the format. But critically, we've created a new model, particularly for the athletes. So we're going to fly the athletes and their social media teams. We will give them video content that allows them to promote themselves and their own partners. We're making it apparel neutral so that we're not freezing out an athlete that doesn't want to be there because they're on a Nike contract or a Puma contract or an Adidas contract. And we have to give the athletes more flexibility in this space. Yeah. And we need to give them the opportunity to build their profiles and actually tell their own stories, because they tell their stories far better than we tell their stories on their behalf. Those are the things that I've been talking about in liberalizing the landscape for them so that they are actually able to monetize away from the field of play, which is just as critical as it is when we come to discuss prize money. And I wouldn't want people to run away with a misconception here. The prize money issue in athletics was to address a very specific vulnerability that my executive board, my council, and my commissions, and it was a unanimous view, a very specific vulnerability that athletes and athletics faces. When I go to the Caribbean Championships, the Carifta Games, which I would advise anybody to go to because you see some of the most extraordinarily talented young athletes, when I'm standing trackside watching it, I'm surrounded by more recruiters and agents from NFL, basketball, baseball, even netball in some parts of the world. And we need to make sure that we retain that talent and creating an opportunity for them to have that financial security around prize money that we create within our own world championships and the opportunity that we provided with them for prize money in Paris. But if I'm successful,
Lord Coe, if I may.
But if this is a very important point, if I may finish here. If I am successful in a few weeks' time, it isn't a one-size-fits-all. Do not assume, nor would I suddenly say, well, we did it for athletics, so it pertains to every international federation, large or small. That I would have a completely different mandate, a completely different remit. And at that point, you have the discussion, which I would actively encourage. And there is this is not a fait accompli. Because we did it in athletics, I would simply not sit there and say, well, we did it in athletics, therefore it's something we will just force upon everybody. No, there would be a collaborative discussion about it, and maybe we decide it isn't the route to go.
Well, Lord Coe, I mean, the prize money is obviously a very big point, but there's also $8 billion of sponsorship and broadcast deals that are going to be on tap for the LA Olympics, and as president of the IOC, you're going to be able to control that narrative, and so I have only 2 words to kind of share with you, and they are flag football. I mean, talk to me. I mean, we have tennis, we have basketball, we have soccer, track and field, swimming, gymnastics, but we're going to get flag football. We all know the Super Bowl, the impact that has on marketing and advertising and the like. I mean, what are your thoughts on flag football at LA 28?
Look, I'm not going to get into the individual discussions about, a particular sport, a new addition to a particular sport. We're all trying to make sure that we appeal to new and younger and fresher audiences and to really push the envelope there. I remember as president of the organizing committee in London, I would love to have had rugby sevens in the stadium for the 3 or 4 days after the opening ceremony. It would have set a huge party atmosphere. We created the party atmosphere anyway. So look, every organizing committee has to have the flexibility to be able to bring new and fresh ideas. I'm discussing already with Los Angeles 28 our ability maybe to take some of our events out of the stadium. We have an out-of-stadium strategy now at World Athletics. So I'm never going to be the one stifling innovation and creativity here. The real challenge, of course, is to harvest creative thinking, but have executable delivery. And we've got to make sure that we're not putting pressure, undue pressure on national Olympic committees to introduce new sports that may only survive a 4-year cycle. That puts them under pressure in terms of investing in those sports, selection processes, only for that sport maybe not to have a life cycle beyond. So there is a balance here. But look, we need to be creative. We need to be innovative. Above all, we need to really address what our audiences want. You don't frame everything around it, but you have to be data driven and understanding what they're saying to you, what they want, where they want it, and critically when they want it, and in formats they understand. You know, I look at some of the Olympic broadcast channel. It's long format, it's expensive, and it's really only getting to a small marketplace. We have the ability to be very much more flexible and creative in how we create our broadcast partnerships, particularly regionally, in a way that allows smaller national Olympic committees to view at the critical moment the work at an Olympic Games that they are involved in for 4 years. Kenya is a really good example of this. Go to Kenya and you will realize that running is not just a passion, it's a religion. It's front page, it's back page, it dominates broadcast time on virtually any platform you choose to name. But when it gets to the Olympic Games, those broadcast rights are very, very expensive. And you've suddenly got national Olympic committees who work 4 years to help build the profile of their sport, and then are really struggling at that critical moment to have a population that may love that Olympic sport that is in some cases being priced out of it. And that's why we really need to free up what I describe as the brand equity around the rings and give more people greater access to it. And my fear at the moment is that it becomes more of a policing exercise than it does an ability to create accessibility to something that we are all passionate about and moves global populations in the way that very few other things do.
Our thanks to Sebastian Coe, president of World Athletics, and to Bloomberg News reporter Hugo Miller. Up next, Major League Soccer season is officially upon us. We welcome the CEO of their newest expansion franchise, San Diego FC. I'm Damian Sassower, along with Vanessa Perdomo. You're listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.
This is Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Damian Sassower, along with Vanessa Perdomo. Michael Barr is off this week.
The 2025 MLS regular season kicks off this weekend, having reached an impressive milestone, its 30th season. And to celebrate this incredible and truthfully resilient feat, Major League Soccer will debut their 30th franchise in league history in their 30th season, San Diego FC.
But it really is no easy feat for the newest expansion team with their first game this Sunday against the defending champs, the Los Angeles Galaxy. Here to discuss the process of launching a nascent franchise in Major League Soccer in a city like San Diego is the CEO of San Diego FC, Tom Penn. Tom, welcome to the Bloomberg Business of Sports.
Damian, Vanessa, happy to be here.
Talk to us a little bit about, not today, but, looking ahead, what's the future, not just for, SDFC, but, San Diego sports more broadly speaking. I mean, are you looking at perhaps getting your own stadium, new arenas, new ballparks, that sort of thing? I mean, is the sports buzz hopping in San Diego the way it is in most other cities across the country?
Yeah, we won't be building our own stadium because Snapdragon is virtually brand new. And it's right-sized for the current MLS. It's upsized. Many of the successful MLS markets with soccer-specific stadiums are in the low 20,000s. We're in the low 30,000s. We're at 32,600 seats. with some more standing room. So it's a bigger building. In fact, it's the biggest soccer specific venue if you take away the NFL shared buildings. So we see this as a competitive advantage when we fill the place up, because it's going to, first of all, be an economic engine, because we've got a lot of premium inventory. We can sell at higher prices. And then we've got all low inventory and a lot of the masses, or the lower price points. So you put those two things together, you get 30,000+ people on any given night, all wearing chrome and azul, our colors, and all intensely engaged in the game. It should be a competitive advantage. You know, the other competitive advantage long-term in San Diego is just the quality of player in this region. Disproportionate amount of national team players come from San Diego. There's always been just this pipeline of talent. And then when you throw in across the border in Mexico, which is also our territory with the way the rules work, we have this catchment area of excellence. And it's our job to develop that excellence. And over time, that can feed our first team and be a real competitive advantage along with the size of the building. So back to your original question, things are rolling in San Diego, all this opportunity for greatness, and we're just really excited to get it going.
You know, Tom, you were talking there about playing in Snapdragon, and I've actually been there, but I went there for a San Diego Wave game. I'm curious, you know, how has it been working with the San Diego Wave and the NWSL, you know, to bring in another soccer team there and, you know, to grow the fever for soccer in the city? Yeah,
it's interesting. San Diego State University owns and operates the building. Mm-hmm. So they're the landlord, and that's who we've dealt with mostly as it relates to Snapdragon Stadium. The Wave and us are similar in that we're both tenants in that building, and we'll share that building. And we're really just getting started with figuring out how to do that. We've done a good job with scheduling, for example, where we find alternate weekends to play. But then we do have some soccer weekends where they play Friday, we play Saturday, you know, and there's a little bit of this back to back. It's San Diego against the world. We're all together. So we look forward to, you know, rising tide lifts all boats, just amplifying soccer, amplifying the love of football in this community, because football thrives here. You know, it's in the DNA of this community. You know, we really look forward then to winning. Right? We both want to win. We especially want to win. We want to compete. We want to be immediately relevant, competitive. We've signed some really significant players, including the best player in Mexico, Chucky Lozano. So I'm in this personal phase of we've been trying to sell what this is going to be and explain what it's going to be, and we're about to express it for real. So then you pivot to sort of selling what we are. And that's the part that's going to be fun and dynamic.
Well, Tom, you know, I mean, the reason I ask about stadiums is this. You know, I live in New York City. You know, NYCFC, they're playing in Yankee Stadium, but my goodness, they would love to be playing in their own stadium. And then you look at Inter Miami, they play in Chase. I think LAFC, they play at BMO. I mean, talk to me a little bit. I mean, those are teams that are valued at over $1 billion, right? And I believe the collective worth of all MLS clubs is now approaching, well, it's over 20 billion. So does having your own stadium, obviously it must add to the valuation of your franchise, but just how much value does it add is my real question here. I mean, where are you getting the bulk of your revenue from? Is it broadcast rights? Is it the games themselves? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
The bulk of our operational revenue comes local. Right? So your thing about stadiums is incredibly relevant to local value. Broadcast rights have been consolidated. All local, national, international rights are part of this big Apple TV deal, this historic deal with one place to go, high quality production, consistency of product, plus you're partnered with the biggest company on the planet that can take this literally all around the world. So broadcast sits there. We're in charge of our own local business, and that's local sponsorship, local ticket sales. What do we do at game day with all those ancillary sales? I mean, those are the big three buckets. Talk about the middle one, right? Ticket sales, premium sales, all that comes from how your building is situated and what you can drive in terms of revenues. So do you have high quality premium areas? Do you have club seat areas that warrant multi-year deals? Can you get a good, solid average ticket price overall? When New York City goes into their brand new stadium that they're building right near the Mets, near Citi Field, that building is going to be an ATM. It's going to be a juggernaut because it's got such great offerings. When you see their premium offerings, they're amazing. Same down in Miami. They're building a brand new stadium out in Freedom Park. It will be a juggernaut. In our case, we come into a new stadium in the market with excellent premium offerings. We added more premium on the pitch. We innovated and we put what we're calling pitch boxes, these little 8-seat race cars right down on the field where your feet are on the grass. And those are the hottest product we have. And then on the other side of the field, we're putting pitch suites. Nobody's ever done it this way, where you take the suite experience, the luxury suite experience, and put it right down on the grass and have your suite where you're walking around on the actual pitch. Really cool premium offerings for our market. That's how you generate the local revenue that makes you sustainable.
Absolutely. I think, one of the other things that's really exciting for San Diego, they're coming in as the 30th team in the 30th season of the MLS. You've worked now in the MLS for a while, but also you worked in the NBA for a long time. As the MLS stands in its 30th season, where do you think it is compared to, obviously other leagues that have been around longer, but like as it stands in the 30th year, how do you think the business of the league is doing?
Clearly major league. Clearly in the major league category of NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, MLS, right? There's 5, the big 5. Mm-hmm. Clearly on the rise. I mean, the rise in valuations, the level of investors coming into MLS. Our chairman, our lead investor, is a multi-billionaire from Egypt, Sir Mohammed Mansour. He operates out of London. He, instead of buying a Premier League team, wanted to buy an MLS team. He wanted to come into Major League Soccer. So the world is seeing it. The quality of the product is continuing to improve. And then you get this double booster that's happening. Messi arriving in the States is an amazing event. That's booster number 1. The World Cup coming in 2026, booster number 2. You put those two together, and the trajectory of where the league goes is clearly up and to the right. We just don't know how far and how fast, right? So that's the fun part, is what is this World Cup going to mean to stack on top of the fact that the world's best player has come here and is expressing his talents in our league? Others want to follow, more will happen. But then how is this all going to play out, and what does the MLS look like on the other side? That's what's exciting and intriguing.
Tom, I love that you brought up Leo Messi going to Inter Miami, and I love even more that you brought up Sir Mohammed Mansour, who we're very familiar with, by the way, over here at Bloomberg. And I want to ask you this. What are the chances of Mo Salah coming to San Diego by the time his career wraps up? I mean, come on, man. If anyone can get him over there, it's got to be Mansour, no?
How cool would that be? He might be the best player in the world today, right?
Might be.
Got the best player of all time to come. But, look, a player like Mo Salah is something everybody would dream of, right? He is a world-class talent, still producing at such a high level, and then high character. What's interesting with Mo is his trajectory, his path, coming from Egypt and kind of coming from nothing. And that resonates with our enterprise, Right to Dream. Sir Mohammed Mansour is the chairman of Right to Dream. Right to Dream is one of the most unique and impressive soccer organizations on the planet. It's a family of youth academies that started in Ghana 25 years ago. And they provide opportunity to children that never would have it otherwise. They go village to village, find the best talent in sub-Saharan Africa, give that talent at age 10, 11, a full scholarship to a school, a youth academy, and a character development program. And it's a residential facility. That's in Ghana. Then it went up to Scandinavia and expanded into Denmark. Mr. Mansour made his investment and built one of these in Egypt. and said, take it to America. So we have 4 youth academies, all training the best young 10, 11, 12-year-old talent, boys and girls. Put them all together. They're going to feed into our clubs, or they feed into the best prep schools and colleges in America. No child's ever left behind as they develop. That's a remarkable thing. So back to Mo Salah, he really had lived that trajectory, right? So there's all this opportunity for us with Right to Dream to develop the future Mo Salahs of America and of Mexico. Mexico is part of our territory because we're within 50 kilometers of the border. So we can recruit the best Mexican kids, the best American kids, and then give them all this opportunity.
That was San Diego FC CEO Tom Penn. Up next, tennis legend, icon, Billie Jean King, on encouraging more girls to get involved in sports. And New Orleans Saints legendary quarterback Drew Brees on the future of pickleball.
Oh, that's straight ahead on the Bloomberg Business of Sports. I'm Damian Sassower, along with Vanessa Perdomo. You're listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.
This is Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
Thanks for joining us on the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I am Damian Sassower, along with Vanessa Perdomo. Michael Barr is off this week. Now that the confetti has been swept off Broad Street in Philadelphia, the NFL offseason officially commences. And this past week, we got some big news. The San Francisco 49ers are reportedly exploring selling a 10% stake at a valuation of more than $9 billion, potentially making it one of the world's most expensive sports teams.
We should note it's unclear if the 49ers will choose to seek a private equity firm to buy the stake, or other investors such as wealthy individuals or family office. Deliberations are ongoing. For the latest, go to Bloomberg.com.
For now, we pivot our attention to pre-Super Bowl, as Vanessa, you were down in New Orleans for Super Bowl 59 just a few weeks back and had the opportunity to speak with some legendary athletes.
Yeah, and one of those was tennis legend Billie Jean King. I mean, speaking with her was truly a dream come true. As a female athlete myself, it really felt like staring into the eyes of the godmother who gave us women's sports. So we spoke about the importance of empowering girls through sports and what it takes to get there. Take a listen.
Leadership. They've done so much research now that we know if you put a girl in sports, she's got a much better chance to be a leader. And also 94% of C-suite women, 94% identify with being an athlete.
Yeah.
And half of those women play D1.
Yeah.
I know it. People don't realize what sports do.
That's
for
an
girls.
interesting part of the stat that I haven't actually heard before. 50% played D1.
Oh,
it's amazing.
They are athletes. And I know of when I'm hiring someone, I ask them, have you ever, and I don't care how good they were, I ask, were you ever a captain of a team?
A captain. Okay.
A captain. You don't have to be the best player. Or best athlete, but you want to know their experiences and where they've kind of molded their lives and how they believe in themselves.
And I think that's something that's lost today in the youth system, actually. You know, you talked about 45% of girls kind of drop out of sports, but now actually they're not playing as many sports. You know, what do you think about the landscape of youth sports right now?
Well, they have proven the best of whatever they are usually played other sports. I would have my children playing sports. And I don't care how good they are, but different sports. Because you learn different things in each sport. You learn different techniques. You learn how to maybe perceive things a little differently. So it helps your real life. And that is real life. I mean, I'm a jock. I mean, come on, give me the ball.
Yeah.
But no, it teaches you so many things. And if you want to be even the best in the sport, when they're young, you want them to play. They've done research. The players who did many sports, or a few sports at least, and then decided to be the best or professional in one sport, they did better than the kids who always specialized in one sport when they grew up. Because you want to learn learn how to run, kick, throw.
Yeah.
Well, you need all these different things.
There's so many different elements that work in different sports.
Especially when a child's young, you want them to use their big muscle groups more, not their fine muscle groups.
Yeah.
So you want them to kick, run, and throw.
Yeah.
Just basic stuff.
Yeah.
And those are the types of things you want to do when a child's young, and parents should think about that. Let them have fun.
Yeah.
Like my brother played 12 years of professional baseball, Randy Moffett. Moffat's our birth name. And he's 5 years younger, and we played all sports together. We had so much fun. I love my baby brother. He's
Yeah.
the best.
One of the things that's interesting, too, about if you specialize, say, in something like tennis at a young age, I was just recently talking with Shaun White about this, and he told me him starting his company and getting things, the newest thing for him in business, it wasn't, learning the business side, it was actually being part of a team.
Yes.
Because he was an individual athlete.
No, but I was in team sports my whole life.
Yeah.
I was in basketball first. I played shortstop. Susan Williams in 5th grade said, "Do you want to play tennis?" And I said, "What's tennis?" And we went to her country club to play. And I said, "Well, I'm not playing tennis because my dad's a firefighter and we're barely making it as is."
Right.
So, but we also played on a softball team. And she said to the coach, Val Halloran, "Oh, I took Billie out to play tennis." And she says, "Oh, we have free instruction here every Tuesday at Highland Park."
Okay.
And that's how that's why I became a tennis player.
Yeah.
I went to the public park, free coaching, free, the courts are free. And after the first day of tennis, I realized that I wanted to be number one in tennis. I'd found what I was going to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I was about 10, just before I turned 11. And I knew that was it. And I knew it was global. I realized global. I read the history. I'm big on history. The more you know about history, the more you know about yourself. But most importantly, it helps you shape the future.
Yeah. How would that relate to, the landscape of women's sports today? Because now they're more, visible than ever. Last year was an amazing year for women's sports. But how would you categorize, where we are right now and how they have to...
We're the best place we've ever been.
Yeah.
But we still have so long to go. But all these... like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark getting into it, all those things, it shows that how many people are showing up and watching. And men do watch a lot of women's sports. It's like 85% watch women's sports. People don't realize it's men and women who watch women's sports and men and women who watch pro sports and men's sports.
Right.
And football, we're here at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And we're going to start this flag football, which I've been so into for the last 4 years. Since I was here 4 years ago, did the coin toss. And I just want them to have an association. I don't
Flag football association?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd have the men and women together, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'd have to
It's
look
really
into
interesting, though, because it is a great way for girls and women to start getting into football.
Oh, it's
more.
great. Oh,
Yeah.
I played football. I played flag when I was a kid.
Oh,
I played baseball, football, softball. I played, volleyball, track and field I love.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I love them all.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in everybody, but I want people to find their sport, whatever it is, love it. I think, well, for me, I know that a lot of kids don't know about tennis. It's too bad because tennis is global, soccer's global.
Yeah.
I went to the World Cup of Soccer in Australia and met the Spanish players.
Yeah.
So no, no, I love sports. I love all of them. And we went to the Women's World Cup of Cricket.
Yeah.
In Melbourne, Australia, not too long ago.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing experience where the Australians beat the Indian women from India. But what was really wonderful is the men told the Australian women, if you should win, we will make you whole. We will give you as much as we got. And that's where the men are really, really helpful.
Yeah.
But people can help each other. And the men, the fathers, like my dad was fantastic. I don't know about your family. You said your dad?
Yeah, my dad was the one who trained me when I was young.
I think fathers are, fathers don't realize how important they are to girls.
Yeah.
And my dad was amazing.
And believing in you as an athlete.
My dad believed in me as much as my brother, and that set the tone for me to go for it.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk to all the fathers out there. You have no idea how important you are to your daughters, and I hope you'll step up if you don't, if you haven't already, and just include them and believe in them and get them into sports, get them into activities, because girls are taught not to trust our bodies. Sports teach you to trust your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sports help me so much to trust my body, to believe in it.
Yeah.
And I think...
and believe in yourself in all different parts of your aspect. Because you've been in the business part of it. You recognize that early part of your career as well.
Yeah, I was in my 20s. When my former husband and I owned tournaments.
Yeah.
And once you own something and you're on the other side as well, then you understand the whole picture.
Yeah.
And it really helps.
That was my conversation with tennis icon Billie Jean King. And Damian, another conversation I had when I was down in New Orleans was with a legend of the city. He helped them bring them a Super Bowl championship back in 2010 and was inducted into their Hall of Fame last year. I'm talking, of course, about former Saints quarterback Drew Brees. And we didn't just talk about the big game. We turned his attention to another sport he fell in love with, pickleball, which him and I actually played together a couple of years ago. Me and him played against Jason Kelly and Larry Fitzgerald in our episode of Next in Sports. It was really amazing. He remembered me, but I did let him down, so that's upsetting. But He does hope that his investment in the league will elevate viewership nationwide.
The big news about 18 months ago was the merger between the PPA, which was the Professional Pickleball Association, and the MLP, Major League Pickleball, which was the team concept. So by combining the two, everybody rowing in the same direction, kind of joint sponsorships, you start thinking about broadcasting and network deals, and just everyone you can now bring to the sport, again, bring a lot of continuity. MLP is so much fun. Like the professional pickleball players love being in the team concept. It's almost like this Ryder Cup, and it's almost, it's men and women. You're playing right next to each other. Whether it's, you got your mixed doubles, you got your men's doubles, women's doubles, and then we've got this dream breaker concept that's like this one-on-one where you could have women and men on the court at the same time playing against each other. It's the only
and sometimes
sport,
they avoid the women.
But it's the only
because
sport.
They're so good.
Annalie Waters. Nobody wants to play Annalie Waters. Like she's phenomenal. So that's what's so great about the sport. It's the only sport you can do that.
Do you think that, because that's a new thing, right? Because when they were separated, they used to be kind of every other thing. You didn't know exactly when the MLP season was going to be, do you think that's going to help garner new fandom for professional pickleball?
It absolutely does, because in the past it was you were kind of competing for weekends, PPA and MLP. But now that we are, really a joint venture or together, the PPA has their season, MLP is specifically scheduling their season around kind of home locations and not disrupting PPA. Plus, honestly, it's a change up for the professional players. Like they like knowing, hey, I've got this season where I'm competing in singles, and then I've got my doubles partner. But then the minute we get to the MLP season, it's like you shift gears and it's like, okay, this is my squad. This is my team. And we're kind of making these stops. And, each stop kind of has a little bit of like a home field advantage feel to it, And I think that's what we want in MLP is we want to start to develop fan bases, right? Like we want the pickleball community in Southern California to latch on to the Los Angeles Mad Drops Pickleball Club. And the Texas team, you got one in Austin, right? You got one in Nashville, you've got one in Columbus, Ohio. So we want these home pickleball communities to say, all right, this is our team, this is who we're going to support.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're invested in that. And so are there any other leagues and sports that you're looking at that you really want to get into next?
Yeah. I love youth sports. I mean, just from the perspective of, I think it's so positive that kids play sports, have access to sports, be multi-sport athletes. So I am huge into the flag football space. We started our own flag football league about 8 years ago, but we're kind of taking that to a whole another level, building experiential tournaments and opportunities for kids, both at the rec level and at the more competitive level. Flag football has been announced as an Olympic sport in 2028 LA Olympics. So that's going to be huge, not just I think for the flag football community, but also globally, right? As other countries start thinking about how they can put together teams to compete, that's going to be a 5-on-5 format. So I think flag football is just kind of like getting kicked off as to where it can go, building national teams, doing kind of select type tournaments, and we're going to be right in the center of that.
And it's a really huge way to get girls and women involved in playing the game of football, right?
That's exactly right. In fact, flag football is now a sanctioned sport for a lot of high school programs. In fact, in the state of California, it was adopted 2 years ago, so I actually helped coach our high school inaugural flag football team for girls.
How was
it? It was awesome. Are you kidding me? Like, the girls listen so much better than the guys do, right? So, I like coaching the girls better than I like coaching the guys.
That was my conversation with New Orleans Saints legend Drew Brees.
Well, Vanessa, thank you so much. And thank you to our audience for joining us. Tune in again next week for the latest on the stories moving big money in the world of sports. You've been listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.